It's the third night. You haven't slept. Not really. Not since the herd moved, and your group had to keep pace with them across open ground where nothing hides you. Someone has to watch. Every night, someone has to watch, because the moment nobody's awake is the moment something else is. Your eyes are burning. Your hands don't feel like your hands anymore. You know you need to close your eyes. You also know that if you do, and nothing is watching the dark past the fire, you might not open them again. So you don't sleep. Not because you don't want to. Because for one more night, you can't afford to. Here's the question that should actually worry you. How long can a human body go like this before something breaks? Not feel tired. Break. And the answer is stranger and closer than you'd think. In 1964, a 17-year-old named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days straight as a science fair project, monitored the entire time by researchers. He didn't die, but by day 4, he couldn't identify objects by touch. By day 9, he was hallucinating that he was a famous football player, fully convinced of it. His brain, deprived of sleep long enough, didn't just get tired. It started rewriting reality to fill in the gaps sleep was supposed to fix. In Gardner's case is the outlier, the healthy exception. For most people, and for most of human history, going that long without sleep was never actually on the table. Something stops you long before day 11. It's not exhaustion. It's your immune system. Sleep is when your body produces the proteins that fight infection and repair damage from the day. Cut sleep down far enough for long enough, and that system doesn't slow down. It collapses. In lab studies on rats deprived of sleep entirely, every single one died within roughly 2 to 3 weeks. Not from any single organ failing, but from a total immune breakdown, as if the body had simply stopped defending itself against a world it could no longer keep up with. For an ancient human, alone on a cold plain with open wounds from the hunt and no medicine, that collapse wouldn't take weeks. It could take days. So think about what that actually meant for someone 50,000 years ago. Sleep wasn't rest. Sleep was a mandatory shutdown of every single one of your senses at exactly the moment predators were most active. Lions, hyenas, and large cats hunt disproportionately at night, specifically because prey is least alert then. Every early human who lay down to sleep was making a bet that whatever was out there in the dark wouldn't find them before morning. Lose that bet once, and there's no second try. This is the actual physical problem sleep created for our ancestors. A problem so serious, it should have been evolution's easiest fix. Just don't sleep as much. And yet we still do. Every human culture, every recorded society, still sleeps roughly a third of its life away. Which means whatever sleep gives you had to be worth that terrifying risk. So what is it? While you're unconscious, your brain runs a cleaning cycle it cannot run any other time. A network of channels around your brain cells, called the glymphatic system, opens up and flushes out metabolic waste, including a protein called beta amyloid that builds up during waking hours. Skip sleep, and that waste doesn't just wait patiently for tomorrow night. It accumulates. Chronic sleep deprivation is now directly linked to a significantly higher long-term risk of dementia because the brain never gets the one maintenance window it depends on. In other words, your ancestors weren't risking predators for nothing. They were risking predators because the alternative was a brain that slowly poisoned itself. So if sleep is both mandatory and dangerous, what do? You don't eliminate the risk. You divide it. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the Hadza of Tanzania, found something remarkable when researchers tracked sleep patterns using activity monitors. At almost any given moment throughout the night, at least one person in the group was awake. Not because of assigned shifts or schedules, but because natural variation in each person's internal clock meant someone was always coming out of sleep while someone else was going into it. Across a full study period, there was rarely a moment when every single adult in the group was unconscious at the same time. Sleep, for early humans, wasn't a private, individual event. It was a rotating, overlapping shield the entire group built together without ever needing to plan it. For nearly all of human history, that system worked because there was almost nothing to disrupt it. Darkness was actually dark. The only light after sunset came from fire, and fire flickers at a frequency and color temperature that barely interferes with the brain's melatonin production, the hormone that signals it's time to sleep. Then came electric light, and more specifically, the blue heavy light from screens, and the entire ancient system broke in a way our biology hasn't caught up to. That light suppresses melatonin far more aggressively than firelight ever did, convincing your brain it's still daytime long after the sun is gone. For the first time in the history of our species, we've built an environment actively working against the exact protective system that kept us alive at night for hundreds of thousands of years. And there's a second thing we lost, quieter than the light problem. That rotating group shield of overlapping sleep also meant nobody, ever, was unconscious and completely alone. Today, in individual bedrooms, behind closed doors, most people in industrialized societies sleep entirely by themselves for the first time in the species' existence. Some researchers studying sleep anxiety and insomnia rates suspect this isolation itself, sleeping alone, unmonitored, unshielded, in a way no human brain evolved to expect, may be a quiet contributor to how common sleep disorders have become. Your brain, on some old and half-forgotten level, may still be listening for a watcher by the fire that simply isn't there anymore. Which brings us back to the rare cases where the system fails completely. There's a genetic condition called fatal familial insomnia, so rare only a small number of families worldwide carry it, where a person's ability to sleep at all gradually shuts down over months. The progression is brutal and precise. First insomnia, then panic attacks and hallucinations, then rapid weight loss, and within roughly 12 to 18 months, death with no known cure. It's an extraordinarily rare disease, but it's also the clearest possible proof of the point. Sleep isn't optional maintenance. It's load-bearing. Remove it entirely, permanently, and the body doesn't adapt. It ends. So the question was never really, what if humans never slept? The real question, the one every one of your ancestors was quietly answering every single night for a few 100,000 years, was how do you make something this dangerous, this necessary, survivable? And the answer wasn't willpower or toughness or staying alert through sheer effort. It was each other. Overlapping shifts nobody had to schedule. A fire that kept the dark just far enough away. A group arranged so that unconsciousness was never total. So go back to that third night. You on watch, eyes burning, hands numb, the fire low. You're not actually the only line of defense you think you are. Somewhere just past the firelight, someone else's sleep is lighter than yours tonight, their body already surfacing toward waking without anyone telling it to. In an hour, maybe less, they'll take over and you'll finally be allowed to close your eyes. Not because you decided to trust the dark, because for 200,000 years, humans built a system that meant you never actually had to.